Is NIO falling behind Xpeng and Li Auto? Which company do I think is the first to die? Guys, it's Mr. P back with another video. Sorry I haven't been uploading lately. I've been recently diagnosed with fatty liver disease, and I've also been having other liver malfunctions and that kind of stuff. And I've had to go to the hospital back and forth many times to get my health checked up. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. The best way you guys can support me is by simply subscribing and make sure you hit the bell, hit the like button, and if you want, you can join my Patreon. There's a lot of cool stuff that I talk about in my Patreon that I don't talk about here on YouTube, and it does go a long way to help me out, so thank you so much. Very recently, right, we've seen Li Auto's delivery skyrocket, we've seen Xpeng's delivery skyrocket, and also NIO's delivery skyrocket as well. Is Li Auto and Xpeng getting ahead of NIO? And the answer is no, absolutely not. And there's three ways to look at this. First is through monthly active users. Now, if you look at NIO's monthly active users, even though this chart is a little bit outdated, it's from a few months ago, but you can clearly tell that there's a big difference. So on top, we have the deliveries. Of course, NIO is still ahead in deliveries, but of course, what's most important is the app monthly active users. And what we can see is that here with Tesla, we have 764K, and then NIO, we got 276K. Xpeng, we have 152K. Li Auto, there's only 71K. Clearly, you can tell that just from monthly active users, there's a big discrepancy between NIO and Xpeng, and of course, with Li Auto. Right, NIO is almost double of Xpeng, which is also almost double of Li Auto. Now, when it comes to company culture and the company ecosystem, NIO is of course on top. Why do I say this? I've actually interviewed an Xpeng manager before. If you guys want to check it out, I'll link it over here. And he showed a massive amount of respect for NIO, man. He was saying like, man, NIO's ecosystem is super nice. You know, they get their own NIO owners to try to sell the car for them. It's really good. They've actually said it's really good. So he showed massive respect for NIO, and he said, you know, people choose Xpeng because, you know, we can get the job done, less amount of money. And that was their selling reason. That was the reason why he would convince people to buy an Xpeng over NIO. Of course, NIO is priced much higher than Xpeng. You can buy 2 Xpengs with the price of a NIO. Over my experience as a NIO owner, what I've seen is that app ecosystem is really awesome in the fact that it's pretty much a social media company as well, where NIO users can post things about the car or just about their daily lives. You can friend people, you can follow people, you can upvote, you can favorite things, you can do all sorts of stuff inside the NIO app. It's almost like Facebook, right? It's almost like Facebook. You have your feed and everything, and this whole entire company culture is something that Xpeng and Li Auto are trying to mimic, right? They're trying to make their own version of this. So within the Xpeng app, you also see this, you know, chat function and people following each other function, even though it's not made to the extent that NIO does it. It's not as much freedom as what NIO has. And then Li Auto also tries to do that as well. And then if you look at NIO houses, which are just specifically made for NIO owners, for them to relax, to enjoy themselves, to chill out, it's a privilege, right? It's something that nobody else has. It's a privilege. You gotta be a NIO owner to get inside. It's the exclusivity. And that kind of feeling of pride is something that Xpeng and Li Auto, they're also trying to copy. So Xpeng actually recently built a sort of like an Xpeng house where it's just specifically meant for Xpeng owners. They built it in Sichuan province. As you can tell, Xpeng and Li Auto are following the footsteps of NIO. So obviously NIO is in front. Now when it comes to deliveries is something that's very important, right? What we're seeing is Li Auto and Xpeng's deliveries have come up quite substantially, and right now NIO's deliveries have also come up, but people are thinking, hey, is Xpeng and Li Auto actually ahead of NIO now? What's really funny was when Xpeng released their September delivery numbers, and it was over 10K, Xpeng specifically said we were the first Chinese EV company to exceed 10K deliveries per month. And then, you know, hours later, NIO posted their September deliveries and it was also over 10K. So that's pretty funny. But what we're seeing right now is that supply is really the limiting factor, and being able to produce the car. Now, I've talked to several NIO sales reps, and they've said that, you know, they have several orders in their pockets, you know, people that paid for the car, everything, but the car hasn't been produced because of chip shortages. They are short on 2 types of chips, right? 2 types of chips. First is the Nomi chip right here. Hey Nomi.
我来啦.
So that's that chip. And then there's also the heads-up display chip. That's the 2 chips that they're short on. Now, usually they said that production for all their vehicles usually take 1 month max. But now, because of how the chips are the limiting factor, right, now it's taking 1 to 2 months and even maybe a bit more for these cars to get produced. So really, NIO has a big backlog of orders. They have a huge backlog of orders, and that's really good. That's really good. And Xpeng also has a lot of orders, but what we're seeing right now is Xpeng's able to fulfill those orders a bit better than what NIO is doing. So to the outsider, it seems like as if, you know, Xpeng is selling better than NIO. But in reality, right, in terms of orders and everything, NIO is still the king. Now, I actually have a funny story to tell you. So I work here at a education center, and my boss, one of my boss, well, she's actually a manager, I guess. She's a manager, the senior manager here, and she actually quit her job here as the manager to become a Li Auto sales rep. What? Can you imagine that? And nobody at my workplace knows that I make videos. I'm a YouTuber. Nobody knows that. And I find it really funny that she would quit her job to go work as a sales rep for Li Auto. Now, of course, Li Auto is one of those more old-fashioned companies. You're still fancy, a traditional gasoline vehicle, but you don't want the license plate to be the limiting factor, right? With Li Auto, you get the best of both worlds. You still get a gasoline car, and you also have unlimited driving restrictions. So that's why people would go to Li Auto, and there's a lot of Li Auto orders. Yeah, that's why Li Autos are selling really well. And actually, really recently, Li Auto has opened up a new construction site here, actually right here in this district where I'm at, to expand production. But what you do need to understand is that none of these companies, Li Auto or Xpeng, have the same company culture that NIO does. I recently watched a documentary about Xpeng's founder, and of course it was in Chinese. But to sum it up, it's basically Xpeng's founder, right? He comes from an engineering background, so that also explains why their cars have such good tech and everything inside. Tech is great, but he learned the hard lesson that service is also really important. And that's something that people had to learn from NIO, right? NIO has that pickup service. If your car breaks down or there's something needs fixing, someone will come and take your car and go fix it for you. And that's something that, you know, people start complaining. They look, hey, NIO has it, why doesn't Xpeng have it? So Xpeng had to learn from NIO and adopt whatever NIO is doing. And then if you also look at merch, right, Xpeng still sells merch that has the big logo. NIO has moved beyond that. NIO has moved to their own design merch that doesn't really feature that much logo. If you think about these big fashion brands, they don't put their logo super big or something like that. Which company is the first to fail? Now, Li Auto is selling so well because of how there's that huge demand right now for that niche segment, right? I still want a gasoline car, but I don't want restricted driving. But I think in the future, Li Auto will actually be the first one to die because they don't put much money into R&D and they don't have a pure EV option. So in the future, when gasoline cars altogether are sort of phased out, that you're not allowed to buy a car that uses gasoline, then that becomes the axe that will take off Li Auto's head. Now, I do ultimately believe that NIO will prosper in the future, and probably Xpeng as well. Xpeng, of course, being the budget option for vehicles that have charging, and NIO, of course, being the ultimate car because of how it can battery swap and upgrade. And in the future, as NIO's infrastructure expands beyond China and into the rest of the world, man, you can see NIO become a huge energy storage company, which is something that's amazing as well. So definitely hit the like, subscribe. See you in the next one.